Howdy, folks. It is Friday, February 28th, and welcome to another episode of TASB Talks, the podcast bringing you the latest happenings and insights into Texas public education. I'm your host, Matt Mitchell, Senior Communications Specialist here at TASB. I'm joined once again by my friend and colleague, Dox Gonzalez, Division Director of TASB Governmental Relations, and it's been a very active week at the 89th Texas Legislature, hasn't it, Dox?
First of all, hi, Matt. Good to see you again. And I feel like we need some fake TASB mugs next time to pretend like we have something to drink.
I like that. I like that. We'll put an order for that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Unless we have those lying around somewhere, which we might.
Yeah.
Which we might.
We've had several bills moving through the process. We have had a lot of hearings, both organizational hearings, which the committees have when they first get started, and hearings to actually consider legislation. So it's been very busy, and we've been trying to keep on top of everything that's going on. But we're going to get here into the meat of it here in just a bit.
Hang in there, Dox. I know it's tiring. It's Friday. I know we don't get that much of a break on the weekends, but try to enjoy it if you can. And speaking of getting caught up on things, we are going to get you all, the listeners, caught up on things. So I first just wanted to ask for kind of an overview of where we stand right now in the 89th Texas Legislature.
Well, where we stand is things are really getting into gear. Since the Speaker of the House announced the committee assignments for the House side, they've started having their organizational hearings and started getting things prepared. They've been getting their updates from the Texas Education Agency. So Commissioner Mike Morath has been very busy over the past couple of weeks. I feel bad for him because he's kind of giving the same report to different committees. But the questions that the committees ask are always very different. So it keeps him on his toes. But kudos to him for sitting through those and getting those done. But those organizational hearings are now pretty much out of the way. And we are now moving towards the phase where we'll start hearing legislation. And so on the House side, we have scheduled for next week, actually, two very big bills that will be considered in House Public Education Committee, both filed by Chairman Brad Buckley, who's the chairman of the House Pub Ed Committee. And it's House Bill 2 and House Bill 3, which are his proposed school finance and ESA, Education Savings Account bills, respectively. So those are very hefty bills, very large bills, a lot to read through. Just to give a brief overview, and for folks that want a broader, more in-depth overview, we have that in our legislative report. So folks can, if they didn't get the legislative report, if they aren't signed up or already received those, they can reach out to me and I can help them.
And for those who'd like to receive the legislative report, again, you can go to tasb.org, go to the advocacy page, and you can subscribe right there. So just had to throw that plug out there. Sorry to interrupt.
You gotta get in the plugs where you can, Matt. But so House Bill 2 is a significant infusion of new funds into the public education system, primarily through $3.1 billion into the basic allotment, which is about $220 per child. So it's a $220 increase to the basic allotment. There's also increased funding in there for special education. There's increased funding in there for the small and mid-sized school allotment. So it's about $5 billion or so that they're putting into public education through there. So a significant infusion. House Bill 3 is the ESA account and the ESA bill, and that bill is like and unlike the Senate version, Senate Bill 2, which is the Senate's version of the ESA bill. House Bill 3, instead of a flat $10,000 or $11,500 for students, it calls for an 85% of the state and local share of funding, which we aren't sure exactly what that number is yet. The commissioner would determine what that is every year. So that's different. I'm sure it's around $10,000. What we're hearing from folks is that it's around $10,000. But the special education component of it, if a child is entitled to special education services, which the public school would still have to evaluate and determine if they are, they're entitled to whatever they would have received at the public school up to $30,000. So that could be a pretty hefty ESA. for folks.
Is there a reason why they would go with that percentage versus just the flat, say, 10,000 number that's in Senate Bill 2? Is there a reason for that difference there?
I think that number allows for the program to grow and expand because it ties the ESA amount to the public school funding amount. I don't know if they should be too happy about that because, like we said, the share of public education funding really hasn't increased since 2019. So funding has been pretty flat. A lot of the funding that has come through since then, and there has been new funding that has come through, has been dedicated to very specific purposes like school and safety and teacher incentive programs, other things that have required direct use of funds as opposed to discretionary funding by school districts. But so both those bills will be heard next week. House Bill 2 is actually going to be considered in two different hearings. The first hearing, I believe on the third or fourth, I don't remember exactly, Matt, will be to consider the bill and hear invited testimony. The second hearing will be for public testimony. They're expecting quite a bit, and their testimony is usually between 2 and 3 minutes. But the posting said that they can shorten that time if they feel like there are too many witnesses to get through all of it in one day. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to be a pretty busy week on the House side. On the Senate side, they've already started getting bills out of the Senate. So, Senate Bill 2, which is their ESA bill, was passed, I think, almost now 2 weeks ago, if not a week ago, and over into the House. The Senate just this week passed their teacher pay plan, Senate Bill 26, which really takes that $4.85 billion that was dedicated in the House for the basic allotment and some other things, and sinks it all into teacher compensation. So it's about $4.1 billion of that would go towards direct teacher compensation, and then another $750 million would be for the teacher incentive allotment. So two different plans for how to get that money into public schools. And what really they're going to be doing over the next few weeks, months, is negotiating what that looks like at the end. Is it going to be more heavily on the teacher compensation side or into the basic allotment, which does carry mandatory teacher pay raises as well? Within anytime you increase the basic allotment, you have to provide a certain percentage of that to teachers for pay raises.
So another bill this week that has made news. We were listening into testimony yesterday. That is Senate Bill 19, introduced by Senator Mays Middleton, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were some interesting things said during this hearing yesterday, in particular about TASB, that I know you would like to respond to. So the floor is yours.
Well, that hearing is really just a very difficult one to listen to because a lot of things that are said about the association just aren't true. And it really is hard to sit there and hear people say things about the association that, I've been here 19 years and worked very closely with our policy service, our legal services, and they are some of the just the smartest and caring people that I know. And our job is to keep schools out of litigation, keep them out of the courtroom. And so it's really tough to hear when people are maligning these individuals who I know are parents who come from education backgrounds, who have dedicated a great part of their lives to helping school districts do their jobs better and keep them out of trouble. So, but the bill, what the bill would do, Senate Bill 19, is it prohibits public schools from hiring individuals who would have to register as lobbyists or joining associations who contract or hire lobbyists. And there are provisions in there to allow associations like TASB to provide legislative services like tracking and keeping folks up to date. But as soon as anyone would have to register as a lobbyist, they would become ineligible they would run afoul of the law. And that's very tricky because, we've had several meetings to determine what exactly does it take to register, what triggers the clause to need to register as a lobbyist. And it seems very straightforward when you read the code, but we've also been told is that it's also very it's up to the perception of whoever is monitoring your time, at the Capitol, and so really, while there are protections that are trying to be infused into the bill, I don't think it really, I should say, it does create a situation where it's going to have a chilling effect on the ability of individuals to lobby on behalf of school districts. I think that's just plain and simple what it is, and that may not be the intended reason for the bill, but it's something that I think would have a very negative impact on school districts and their ability to advocate for their children. Because I think that's one of the cynical viewpoints that I heard a lot yesterday. People were saying that school districts often advocate against their taxpayers, and the school board members I know and have advocated with at the Capitol and have seen advocating, they're advocating for their kids, they're advocating for their taxpayers, they're advocating for less government. We heard an individual say that it's government lobbying government for more government. And if you look at the bills out this session, and if you look at the ever expanding size of the education code, I think at this point our members want less government and the ability to run their independent school districts locally, because they are locally elected officials. And so I think they want less government. I think they want more ability to help their students and their communities, and that's what they've been fighting for. And I think that a bill like this would significantly impact their ability to do that.
And an argument that I heard yesterday in favor of the bill is that they want constituents to be able to go directly to legislators and to kind of work together. And in theory, that sounds great. I think we would all like that. But the legislature can be quite difficult to navigate, can it?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been here 19 years and I don't even understand everything yet. So it is a very complicated process, and everyone needs help with this kind of thing. And there was a trustee yesterday, Alex Katara, out of Karn City ISD, who showed up, and he was texting me saying, "Hey, I'm going to be at the hearing today." He was up at 3 a.m. He said he couldn't sleep, and he was just thinking about it, and he said he had to come up and testify. And that's great. That's not something we can expect every week from Alex. He really laid it out very well. He had a list of numbers of the time commitment that it takes and the cost that it takes to come to Austin and to testify. And he mentioned, he spends hours doing it, and for maybe the opportunity to speak for 2 or 3 minutes before a committee. So it is very tough. And like we said, there are 1,000 school districts across the state, and we're not always going to get folks from Texline and Texarkana, El Paso, Brownsville. Every once in a while they'll be here, but not all the time. It's a jog. So it helps to have a unified voice here for them to help speak for them when they can.
Well, Docs, there are a couple other bills we've been keeping our eye on. One of them was parental rights, which they heard testimony on yesterday. So why don't you walk us through that?
Yesterday was Parental Rights Day in Senate Education, and there were several bills that were heard. A lot of them were, and they admitted this by pretty much laying out all these bills and taking testimony at the same time on these bills. They kind of mashed a few bills together into one omnibus bill, which is SB 12, and that is Chairman Creighton's attempt to make sure that parents have more their rights expressly stated, and that they know what they can do when it comes to their kids in public schools. And there's some great things in the bill. There's some things that we're certainly going to be working with the chairman as it moves through the process. There's a particular one thing that it would do is allow for open transfers between districts from any district in the state. So while that is a laudable goal, there are issues with capacity and while districts. So what the bill does, what that portion of the bill does, and it is a standalone bill. I believe it's Senate Bill 686. I believe it allows a child to transfer to any school as long as there's capacity, and it sets forth kind of a process for how a school determine its capacity and have to post it. So there's a lot of administrative work that comes with that, which is another person you have to hire to do all of that. But I get worried about districts who might fill up with transfers and then have more development locally, leading to more bonds, so increased INS taxes and less ability to serve the children within the attendance zone that the school is required to serve. And I think that's one of the things we forget sometimes when we talk about open transfers and charter schools and things like that. When you have an entity like a charter school that isn't required to take a child that moves in next to a school, it's easier to manage that capacity to say, okay, we're full, we can't take any more kids. When you're an ISD, you have to take those kids coming in. So if you're near capacity and a master plan development goes up next to your elementary school, you have to accommodate all of those families moving in, and that's going to create a burden for schools. And across all schools, it'll create staffing inefficiencies because some schools will be understaffed, some will be overstaffed, facility inefficiencies, some new facilities will be underutilized, and so you'll be paying for a building that maybe isn't full anymore. Whereas somewhere else you'll have not enough space, and so you'll need to acquire, build new buildings. So that's something that we'll be trying to work on to help address those kinds of issues. It also has a lot in there about grievance policies, and that's always a tricky subject just because the timing of grievance policies is always very contested. And so something that we'll just be trying to make sure that there's a good balance in there that serves, both students, teachers, the district, everyone involved.
Well, Docs, again, it's been a busy week, and it'll continue to be busy as we get deeper and deeper into the session. And we appreciate you hanging out with us on this Friday. Again, I hope you can try to relax a little bit this weekend.
At this point, Matt, I make it a point to enjoy myself on the weekend.
That's good. That's good. I hope you do. And I hope you all listening enjoy your weekend. Or whenever you're listening to this. It could be next week. It could be a few weeks from now, although we'll have another episode out by then, so probably not. But on that note, thanks for joining us today, Docs, and thank you for tuning in. As always, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and now you can watch episodes on our @TASB News YouTube channel. We hope you do. We hope you subscribe, and we hope you tune in next time. So thanks so much, everyone.